The morning sun had just begun climbing over the rooftops of Willow Creek, a small American town where everyone knew everyone, or at least pretended they did. The air smelled like cut grass and warm asphalt, the kind of smell that reminded people of summer jobs and childhood chores. For most folks it was just an ordinary day, but for Marcus Hale, it was another chance to prove himself, another chance to keep his life from falling apart again. Marcus was 34, built solid like the old Chevy trucks he loved working on. His hands were scarred from years of turning wrenches, yet gentle when it came to fixing delicate parts. He moved with quiet purpose and spoke softly, the kind of man people overlooked until they needed something fixed. Willow Creek Auto Center wasn't the fanciest shop, but it was steady work, and steady was something Marcus desperately needed. Every morning he arrived before anyone else. It wasn't required, no one paid him extra for it, but Marcus liked the stillness. He liked wiping down tools, checking the bays, and letting the hum of the morning settle over him. It made him feel like he controlled at least one part of his life. Because the rest of his life was a mess he rarely talked about. 3 years earlier, he had been a husband, a father, and a soldier returning from his second deployment. But the war didn't stay overseas, it followed him home. Sleepless nights, panic attacks, the sudden sparks of anger he couldn't always control. His wife, Lana, had done her best. She always tried to reach him, tried to bring him back to the man he used to be. But the darkness inside him kept growing, and when the marriage fell apart, so did everything else. Their daughter, Kayla, was 8 now. She lived with her mother in a nearby city, and Marcus visited whenever he could. He would drive the old Dodge he rebuilt himself to pick her up, pretending everything was fine, pretending he wasn't barely holding his life together. He would smile even though he hadn't slept in days. He would hug her tight, afraid she might slip away like everything else. Working at the auto shop was his second chance. The owner, Mr. Peters, had hired him after hearing about his past, telling him, "A man who can admit his pain is a man worth investing in." Peters treated him like a son, but he was old now and rarely came to the shop. His son, the manager, wasn't as kind. Ryan Peters was the kind of man who wore designer jackets to a dusty auto shop. He ran the place like a corporate office, always shouting about numbers, cutting corners, and reminding the mechanics that everyone is replaceable. He especially rode Marcus harder than the others, sometimes subtle, sometimes not. But Marcus kept his head down. He needed this job. He needed to hold on. That morning, just as Marcus set aside his rag, he heard a soft tapping outside the bay doors. When he stepped out, he saw a small older woman standing next to a dusty blue Cadillac, leaning on a cane, her silver hair blowing across her face. She looked lost, confused even. "Ma'am, are you all right?" Marcus asked, walking toward her. She looked up at him with trembling eyes. I'm not sure. My car, it just stopped. And I don't know what I'm doing out here. I thought I was going home, but..." Her voice cracked. Marcus recognized that kind of fear. He had heard it in veterans who forgot where they were. He had seen it in the mirror during his worst nights. "Don't worry," he said gently. "You're safe. Let's get you inside and out of the heat." She hesitated, gripping the door as if unsure whether to trust him. "My name's Marcus," he said softly. "I'm a mechanic here. I can help you." Something in his voice calmed her, and she nodded slowly. He guided her to a chair just inside the shop's office. Her hands shook as she held her purse. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I don't mean to be a bother. My son usually takes care of things, but he's been busy." The tremor in her words made Marcus's chest tighten. His own mother had suffered memory loss before she passed. He remembered the helplessness of watching someone you love slip away in pieces. "You're not a bother," Marcus said. "Let me take a look at your car." The Cadillac was old but elegant, the kind people kept because of memories, not because of value. He lifted the hood and spotted the problem quickly, a loose battery cable and a cracked hose. Easy fixes, but the woman wasn't in a condition to wait around. So Marcus worked quickly while she rested. 10 minutes later, the engine purred again, the way a loyal old car should. He walked back to her. "Ma'am, your car's good to go. I'll drive it around front so it's easier for you." When she stood up, she took his hands in hers. "Thank you, son. You're very kind. What do I owe you?" "Nothing," he said with a small smile. "Just get home safe, okay?" Her eyes glistened. "People like you make the world softer. Don't you ever let anyone make you feel small." He swallowed hard. Those were the same words his daughter once told him before a school performance he missed because of a panic attack. "Daddy, you're not small. You're my hero." Before Marcus could respond, a sharp voice cut through the shop. "What's going on here?" Marcus turned to see Ryan marching toward them, sunglasses on despite being indoors. Ryan eyed the old woman with cold annoyance. "Why is this person sitting in our office? And why are you dealing with customers off the books, Marcus?" "She wasn't a customer," Marcus said quietly. "She needed help. Her car." "I don't care," Ryan snapped. "You don't just touch cars without a service ticket. You know the rules. This is a business, not a charity." The woman flinched at his tone. Marcus stood up straighter. "Sir," she looked lost. "She needed. Did I ask for your explanation?" Ryan barked. "You've been testing my patience for months. Slow work, taking extra breaks, messing around with people who don't pay. You think I don't notice?" Marcus clenched his fists but stayed calm. "I fixed a loose battery cable. That's all." Ryan stepped closer, face red with anger. "You're done, Marcus. Fired. Get out." The woman gasped. "Fired? But he helped me." Ryan ignored her entirely. "Turn in your uniform. Clear your locker. Now." Marcus felt the ground tilt beneath him. Fired. Not again. Not after everything he fought to rebuild. He looked at the trembling woman and forced a gentle smile. "It's okay, ma'am," he whispered. "I'm glad you're safe." He picked up his backpack, walked past Ryan, and stepped outside into the morning light. But the world didn't feel bright anymore. It felt cold. When he reached his truck, he sat behind the wheel and lowered his head into his hands. He didn't know if he was angry, sad, or just tired. Losing this job meant losing stability. Losing his daughter's visitation schedule. Losing another piece of himself. But he didn't regret helping her. Not for a second. Inside the shop, the old woman stared after him, her heart pounding. She recognized something in Marcus, a gentleness, a dignity the world often tried to crush. She looked at Ryan with stunned disbelief. How could you treat him like that?" she asked, tears forming. Ryan scoffed. "Lady, I don't run this place by letting people like him slack off. Now if you don't have a real appointment, you need to leave." The woman's face hardened in a way Ryan wasn't prepared for. "I'm calling my son," she said sharply. Ryan smirked. "Good. Maybe he can come pick you up." She straightened her shoulders. "My son is Mr. Peters, the owner." Ryan's smirk evaporated. She pulled out her phone, not shaking now, but steady with fire. "And you," she said coldly, "have made the worst mistake of your life." Marcus drove aimlessly through town, gripping the wheel so tightly his knuckles turned white. His thoughts were a blur, his daughter, the bills he was barely keeping up with, his therapy appointments, the promise he made to his ex-wife that he was getting better. How was he supposed to explain this? He pulled into the empty parking lot of Willow Creek Park and sat there, staring at the playground swings swaying in the wind. Kayla used to love that park. She'd run to the tallest slide and shout, "Daddy, watch me!" And he'd clap and cheer like she was the bravest girl in the world. He wondered if she'd still be proud of him now. As he sat in his truck, his phone buzzed. It was his ex-wife, Lana. "Hey," he answered quietly. "Marcus, are you okay? You're usually at work now." He hesitated. "I just had a tough morning." She sighed softly. Do I need to pick you up? No, he said quickly. I'm fine. Just sorting things out. She didn't buy it, but she didn't push either. Kayla asked about you this morning. She wants to show you the picture she drew at school. A small smile touched his lips. I'll call her later. Marcus, whatever happened today, don't let it take you back to that dark place. I'm trying, he whispered. After the call, he leaned back and stared at the sky. All he ever wanted was stability, for his daughter, for himself. He fought wars overseas, fought battles inside his own mind, fought to build a life again. But somehow life kept knocking him down. Meanwhile, back at the auto shop, chaos erupted. The old woman, whose name was Grace Peters, stood in the center of the office while Ryan stammered and stumbled over his excuses. Mom, why didn't you tell me? How could I tell you anything when you speak to people the way you just spoke to that young man? She snapped. You fired someone for being kind. For helping me. He broke rules. Ryan insisted. We can't have employees doing free work. He fixed a battery cable, she shot back. Something any decent human would have done for an elderly woman on a hot morning. Ryan tried to regain control. Mom, you don't understand. He's not reliable. He has issues. You know, his type. Grace froze. His type, she repeated, her voice trembling with outrage. What exactly does that mean, Ryan? He swallowed. Hard. That man, she continued, pointing toward the exit, treated me better in 5 minutes than you have in 5 years of managing this shop. She picked up her purse with a sharp motion. I'm calling your father, and I'll make sure he knows every detail. Ryan's face turned pale. Mom, please, don't do that. But she already had the phone to her ear. Within 30 minutes, Mr. Peters, elderly, gray-haired, and still commanding, stormed into the shop with his cane hitting the tile like thunder. In my office, he said to Ryan. Now. The door slammed shut behind them. The yelling wasn't quiet. Meanwhile, Grace sat in the small waiting area, tears welling in her eyes as she thought about Marcus. She remembered the gentleness in his voice. She remembered how he helped her without expecting anything. She remembered how lost she had been, and how safe he made her feel. I need to find him, she whispered. But she didn't have to. Because when the office door finally opened, Mr. Peters stepped out with a firm determination. I want him back, he said. Immediately. Ryan nodded quickly. Yes. I'll call him. No, his father said sharply. I will call him. He stepped outside, took a deep breath, and dialed Marcus's number. Marcus answered on the second ring. Hello. Marcus, Mr. Peters said gently. Son, we need to talk. Marcus braced himself. He expected anger, disappointment, judgment. Instead, the old owner's voice softened. My wife told me everything. I am so sorry. Marcus blinked. Sir, what? You helped her when she was confused and scared. You protected her. And my son, he didn't just fire you. He disrespected a good man. Mr. Peters exhaled shakily. Please, let me make this right. Marcus didn't know what to say. His throat tightened. Can you come back to the shop? Mr. Peters asked. My wife would like to see you too. After a moment, Marcus nodded, though the owner couldn't see it. Yes, sir. I'll be there. When he returned to the shop, Grace hurried toward him with tears in her eyes. Marcus. I'm so sorry, she whispered. I didn't mean for you to suffer because of me. He shook his head. None of this is your fault. She took his hand, squeezing tightly. You remind me of someone. My brother. He was in the military too. He struggled after he came home. People weren't always kind to him. But he had such a good heart. Marcus swallowed hard. I understand. Please forgive us, she said softly. Before he could respond, Mr. Peters approached with a contract in hand. Marcus, I would like to offer you your job back, with a promotion. Lead mechanic. Higher pay. And full benefits. Marcus stared at him, stunned. Sir, I don't know what to say. Say yes, Grace said, smiling through tears. But Marcus hesitated. What about your son? Mr. Peters glanced toward the office where Ryan was standing with his head low. My son will no longer manage this shop. Ryan's eyes widened. Dad, please. You nearly put my wife in danger, Mr. Peters said sternly. And you fired a good man because of your pride. Go home, Ryan. We'll talk later. Ryan left the shop silently, shoulders slumped. Marcus stood there in shock. All of this, because he helped a woman who just needed kindness. You deserve better, Mr. Peters said softly. You always have. Marcus bowed his head, overwhelmed. Thank you, sir. I accept. Grace smiled warmly. Good. You'll make this place better. And for the first time that day, Marcus felt something he hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. The weeks that followed changed Marcus's life in ways he never imagined. As lead mechanic, he worked with confidence he didn't know he had. The other employees respected him, not just because of his skills, but because of his heart. The shop felt different now. Kinder. Warmer. Grace visited often. Sometimes she brought cookies, sometimes just stories. She treated Marcus like family, always insisting he sit with her a few minutes just to talk. One afternoon, as Marcus finished up a repair, she walked toward him with a soft smile. Would you like to join us for dinner tonight? She asked. My husband and I would love to have you. He hesitated. I don't want to intrude. You're not intruding, she said firmly. You're important to us. So that evening, Marcus found himself sitting at the Peters family dining table, surrounded by warmth he hadn't felt in years. Grace served pot roast while Mr. Peters asked about his daughter, his interests, his goals. It felt like being part of a family again, something Marcus had long believed he didn't deserve. As dinner ended, Mr. Peters looked at him seriously. Son, I know life hasn't been easy for you, but I want you to know, you're not alone. Not anymore. Marcus looked down, blinking hard. Thank you, sir. Call me Walter, the older man said gently. Grace added, and call me Mama Grace. All the boys at church do. They all laughed softly. For Marcus, it was healing he never expected. One weekend, he brought his daughter, Kayla, to the shop. She was small, full of energy, with her father's eyes and her mother's smile. When Grace saw her, she nearly burst into tears. Oh, look at this angel, she exclaimed. Come here, sweetie. Kayla giggled and hugged her. Daddy says you're nice. Grace beamed. Well, your daddy is pretty special. Later, Kayla tugged on Marcus's sleeve. Daddy, are these people your friends? He kneeled to her level. Yes, sweetheart. They're very good people. She smiled. That makes me happy. It was a simple moment, yet it filled Marcus with a warmth he thought he'd lost forever. But life isn't without challenges. One evening, as the sun dipped beneath the horizon, Marcus received a call from his ex-wife. Marcus, she said, voice trembling. I need to ask you something hard. He felt his chest tighten. What is it? Kayla's school is hosting a father-daughter event. She really wants you there, but it's on the same night as your late shift. I know your new job is important, but I'll be there, he said instantly. You will. Of course. Nothing is more important than Kayla. The next morning, he approached Walter nervously. Sir, I need that evening off. My daughter has an event. Walter smiled gently. Marcus, family always comes first. We'll cover your shift. Relief washed over him. Thank you. I won't forget this. Walter placed a hand on his shoulder. Just be a good father. That's enough. The night of the event, Marcus wore the nicest clothes he owned. When Kayla saw him standing by the gym entrance, her face lit up like Christmas morning. "Daddy!" she screamed, running into his arms. He lifted her up, twirling her. "Hey, baby girl." Throughout the night, they danced under twinkling lights, played silly games, and took photos in a booth. And for the first time in years, Marcus felt whole again. Later, as he tucked Kayla into bed at her mother's house, she whispered, "Daddy, I'm proud of you." Tears stung his eyes. "I'm proud of you too, sweetheart." Driving home that night, he thought about how far he had come, from panic attacks and unemployment to being someone his daughter admired again. And it all started with helping a scared old woman on a hot morning. Months passed, and the shop grew busier than ever. Customers loved Marcus. Some came just for him, saying, "Where's that good mechanic with the gentle hands?" Grace joked that they should rename the shop Marcus and Sons. One day, as he was closing the bay doors, Grace walked toward him slowly, leaning on her cane. "Marcus, can I tell you something?" she asked softly. "Of course, Mama Grace." She took a shaky breath. "When you helped me that day, I didn't just forget where I was. I forgot who I was. The doctor says my memory will get worse." Marcus felt a heaviness in his chest. "I'm so sorry." She smiled peacefully. "Don't be. I've lived a beautiful life, and meeting you was one of the blessings in it." A tear rolled down his cheek. "You gave me dignity," she continued. "You made me feel safe when my own mind was slipping. That's not something people forget, even when memories fade." He gently hugged her, careful not to hold too tight. "Thank you for saying that," she whispered. "Promise me, you'll keep being the man you were that morning." "I promise." And he meant it. Because that morning changed not just his job, but the entire direction of his life. Helping one woman had led him to healing. He found family, forgiveness, purpose, and a sense of belonging he thought was gone forever. As months rolled into seasons, the shop became a second home, and the Peters family became his silent guardians. He built a stable life for his daughter, reconnected with his own heart, and learned that kindness, true, simple kindness, could change the world in ways he never imagined. And whenever customers asked why the new sign outside the shop read,